Today we have one of the OG finance gurus at the table.
And I just wanted to start off today's show by just giving you your love.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? Your flowers, because you've paved the way for a lot of us younger financial guys and ladies coming up in the game.
Now, before we hop into today's show, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you can be notified every single time we drop a new video. Now let's hop into the show.
Welcome to the table, yeah. We gon' get real, we gon' get right. Oh, building up wealth, we gon' give life. Welcome to the table, wealth, yeah. Welcome to the table, build wealth, life. Welcome to the table.
Yo, man, listen, y'all, we at the table. Listen, man, listen, tell y'all right now. Anytime this woman text me, call me, DM me, or she's in my presence, she is, when it comes to, especially in the minority space, this is the guru. I don't want to call her the king because I don't want to be disrespectful, but if she was a male in the African-American space, she's the king if she was a male, but right now she's the queen. She's the guru. Y'all, when it comes to the money space, I've learned so much from Tiffany, known as Budgetnista. I've read all of her books. I listened to her podcast. She's taught me a lot. Like I'm sitting here as a black man because of some of the things that she's done. And I just want to start off today's show by just giving you your love.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? Your flowers, because you've paved the way for a lot of us younger financial guys and ladies coming up in the game.
Thank you.
You know, and so I have no problem giving credit where credit needs to be given, because this woman knows what she's talking about. And what I love about her is, you know, Tiffany, you remind me of, like, you're not old enough to be my grandma. You're young. But as you remind me of my grandma, you can whip me, and I didn't even know I was just whipped. It's like how you check us financially. It's like, wait a minute, that felt so good, but did she just check me?
I would say, like, I like to be like the soul child of Mr. Rogers and Harriet Tubman. Like, oh, you gonna get free? And I'm gonna do nice, you know. I'm gonna do a nice one.
I like how you said it. You gonna get free today. But it's like, and you do though. You know what I'm saying? I want to start back from the very beginning with you, because oftentimes we don't see you do a lot of interviews. So thank you so much for being on my show. But we always see you teaching and coaching and helping us. But where did Tiffany come from? Like, where did Budgetnista come from? You're Nigerian. And so it's like, was your dad big on finances?
Absolutely. He was a CFO, an accountant. He has his, I want to say, master's in finance and his bachelor's in economics.
Wow.
So like a real money guy. And then my mom was a nurse. She's got her master's in nursing as well. So I just grew up learning about money from him, from the academic side. Like, this is actually how you budget.
Yeah.
How you invest.
Yeah.
Instead of your sweet 16, at 16, we open a bank account down the street.
Say what?
But literally, he was like, at 16, you get to open a joint bank account with me.
Yeah.
And so back then, I'm 44 now, so back then they used to have passbooks. I'm dating myself. And so like he would be like, this is how you use your passbook. This is how you use your checkbook. And so I got to learn hands-on with my dad. And then my mom was very much like, let's take it to the streets. Because your dad is showing you, like, on paper, you know, how to manage your money, but he doesn't go food shopping, I do. So let me show you what that looks like, food shopping. Yeah. Let me show you what it looks like to buy clothes for 5 girls. I'm one of 5 girls.
Yeah.
Let me show you, like, even now, like, if I were to buy a car now, I'm not calling my dad, I'm calling my mother.
What?
And I've done that before. Like, I bought my first car, and I remember the salesman was, like, being pushy.
Yeah.
So I was like, I need to use the restroom. I was in the bathroom, like, Mommy, can you come?
Yeah.
And she was like, I'll be there in a minute. Talked him all the way down to the ground. That woman is a master negotiator.
Wow.
Yeah, to this day, I mean, I'm pretty good, but I don't match Sylvia. I don't match. I mean, I remember for Mother's Day, she wanted a couch, and I was like, you know what? Sit back, like, watch me. So I got the couch down like $250, and I was feeling myself like, and she was like, go sit down. She came back, another $250 off, ended delivering it for free. She was like, it's okay, you growing, but you ain't think what Mommy is. I was like. So I just grew up in a household where financial education was everyday life for us.
In your experience now, are you coaching parents on how to have that conversation in the house? Because on my side of the world, we're hearing that we're not having that conversation in the house. Are you hearing the same thing within your community as well?
Absolutely. I think a lot of folks don't, because they don't feel comfortable, they're like, how can I teach from a place of ignorance, you know? And so one, not only am I like through the Budgetnista platform, teaching people how not to feel self-conscious about their money and how to teach their kids, but like I got a law passed in my state, New Jersey, along with my assemblywoman, Angela V. McKnight. It's called the Budgetnista Law, A1414. Making financial education mandatory for middle school students. Because parents, Jersey already has a high school law. And so when I work with her, we're still working on the elementary school, because I want, as soon as you step into the public school system in New Jersey, all the way through high school, you know, you're getting financial education in a way that's age appropriate.
So your father played a major role. He clearly has the book smarts of finances. Speak to me about fathers. How important do you think that fathers, and even mothers, but more importantly, I want to talk about fathers because, you know, I'm a man. How important is it for fathers to step up and have those conversations with their children, specifically their daughters? I
think, honestly, and I'm like, you know, maybe this is an unpopular opinion, I think a father's role is the most important role in a girl's life.
I didn't say it.
Yeah. I mean,
I believe it.
And here's the
She
thing.
said it.
Love my mama. Don't get me wrong. I will go up to my mama. You know, I love my mom. And obviously, like, critically important. But we, especially in the United States, it's a male gaze that you see yourself through. So it's through your father that you know that you are beautiful. It's through your father that you know that you're smart. Like, you cannot tell me that I'm not a genius. The way my dad used to hype us up, I mean, the oldest sister is a scientist. I, you know, was a teacher. Before I started the Budgetnista, but now I do what I do now. I'm still a teacher.
Still a teacher, I would say,
And then the third, she worked in finance, and now she's a publicist. And fourth is an engineer. Fifth is in communications. And so, like, all of us, and half of us have our masters. You could not tell us that we were not the smartest, because my dad was like, I'm confused about why you have a 95 and you're happy about it, because my expectation is 100. Where's the other 5 points? That's what I grew up with, that there is an expectation of excellence. And so when I see myself, I think that, like, I do not expect anything less than excellence from myself or the people around me. But I got that from Anthony ONeal, my father. And so, like, it just, and also, too, my dad taught us to be hyper independent. If I'm being candid, I think if I would have had a brother, well, I know, because my dad said this, that Nigerian culture is very male-dominant culture. Men take care of women. If I would have had a son, the purpose of my son was going to be to look after my girls, you know? So, but 1 girl, 2 girls, 3 girls, 5 girls later, my mother said, shop is closed. My son is not happening. Figure it out. So he was like, damn. So I am going to now have to make sure my girls know how to look after themselves. So I remember when I learned, I was in high school, I had to learn how to cut the lawn, mow the lawn. We had a big lawn. We lived on a double lot.
Wow.
Yes, and I was like, but why do I have to?
Is it cutting grass?
Cutting grass. He was like, you know, he said, because I don't know, between where you are now to before you get married, I don't know what that's going to look like for you. So I'm going to teach you to cut grass. I'm going to teach you to change the oil on your car. I'm going to teach you to manage your money. All these things I might not have had access to, you know, had I had a brother. And so I remember him distinctly saying, I want one day, if you decide to get married, that it's from a choice, not because you have to, because you need someone to look after you. So all of us know how to, like, look after ourselves. And even when I had my little boyfriends in college, in my mind, I was like, my dad was always like, if you need something, you look to yourself first, second, and third, and me fourth. So it was like, boy, I don't a whole daddy at home. Like, first of all, he taught me how to do it. If I can't figure it out, I'm going to be knocking on Rondi's door like, I tried all the things. Tell me what I need to do. So it taught me just to be, like, really independent, you know, and then I get to choose how I want to live my life from a place of, like, I got myself. So if you got you, I got me, then together, like, you know, we can have an amazing partnership.
So where did Budgetnista come from?
So it just came from, I was a school teacher, which was a disappointment to my parents.
Are you serious?
They want you to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, everything else is a disappointment. And so, so I was a school teacher, and but I learned, you know, budgeting and finance and things at home. And then when I was in college, my college roommate had debt collectors calling our dorm room, and I didn't even know that was possible. We thought it was funny, because I'm, you know, 17, 18. So
debt collectors? Dorm room? College kid?
Yeah, well, it wasn't her. Her mother, her father, I believe, had passed away.
Okay.
Her mother was a single mom, struggling to raise her and her sister.
And they were looking for mom by calling.
Yes, yeah. So her mother, I think, had opened up credit cards under her name to try to make it work. And so she she was like, I don't know what to do. We, like I said, thought it was funny.
Yeah.
They would call, we would put on different voices, pretend to be different people.
Yeah.
And then I was telling my dad, you go home telling a joke like, oh, Daddy, like, debt collectors call the door, but, we put on these voices. He's like, wait. Hold on, that's serious. And I was like, is it?
I often get questions about life insurance, where to buy, how to find affordable rates, the simplest application process, and most importantly, where to secure coverage instantly. Like, people don't want to wait a long time. They want the coverage right now. Giving the startling statistic that nearly 40% of African Americans do not have life insurance coverage today, it's even more critical to address these questions. My recommendation to all these questions is simple. My friends over at Ethos Life Insurance. These are the people who hold my life insurance policy. You see, their mission is to simplify life insurance and make it accessible online to everyone. No paperwork, no medical exams, or check this out, no blood tests. You simply answer some health questions online, and just like that, you could secure coverage the exact same day. But the cherry on the top, family, Ethos offers an incredible deal that I wish I had when I signed up with them for my life insurance policy about 2 years ago. You see, when you secure a life insurance policy through them, they will throw in a will and estate plan for 100% free. I'm tripping and I'm excited at the same time because I personally spent $2,500 on my estate plan at the beginning of this year. So getting it free with a life insurance policy that might cost you as low as $50, that's a no-brainer. I mean, like none. Don't just take my word for it. You see, Tanner R., a customer, secured a $500,000 30-year policy without a physical exam through Ethos. He says the price was great. The process was completely easy. You see, Ethos truly values our time. You see, Alex got approved for a $1 million policy in just 5 minutes. She said, simple and straight to the point. Comments were, surprisingly, user-friendly and great communication. So, are you ready to protect your family's financial future? Don't let this statistic define you. I want you to get covered today and get a will and get the life insurance policy and get the what's it called? The estate plan for 100% free. All you gotta do is go to anthonyoneal.com/ethos. Again, that is anthonyoneal.com/ethos. Secure your coverage today and ensure peace of mind for your loved ones. All right, let's get back to today's show.
And I was like, he said, tell her this, and this. And I was like, okay. So then I started to become this conduit between so then after a while it was like, Tiffany, can you ask your dad this? And then I was like, well, I want to learn. So I started taking all these financial classes and courses, and I became the go-to girl in my friend group. Sometimes this is the girl, she's got the bomb hair.
Yeah.
This one is going to tell you about relationships. I was the money girl.
You were the money girl.
And then I really began to love it. And when I became a teacher, I was really young. I was 21 when I got my teaching job. I taught preschool in Newark. Okay. And especially the section where I taught, it was like really economically depressed. And the parents and I were like the same age, and they were like, oh, Miss Tiffany, can I hold something till Friday? I'm like, Keisha, no. But at nap time, you could come and I could show you how to budget. And I was like, wait, you put your money in check cash? Do you know how much they charge? No. You know what? Go to your job, have them direct deposit, because you think you don't have the $10 fee at the bank, but if you have direct deposit, the bank account is free. So I started having lessons at nap time for the parents when the kids were sleeping. And I remember I was doing tax, because I learned how to do my taxes when I was a teenager. My dad taught me. Okay. And I was like, how much did you pay down the street? Come in here and we'll do your taxes. And they're like, for free? I'm like, well, girl, you gonna be sitting right beside me. I'm gonna show you how to do it so you never have to pay, hundreds of dollars, unless you have it, Right. Especially if your taxes are really simple. Yeah. Absolutely. And so that's when I wrote my very first book, The 1 Week Budget. Okay. Because I just was like, I self-published it, but I was getting the same questions over and over. So I said, let me write a guide to like step-by-step budgeting. And that kind of started my journey and like becoming an author and starting the Budgetnista. It was supposed to be a nonprofit. That's what I thought. Okay. I said, I'll teach. And then the Budgetnista will be this thing I do on the side for fun to help the community. Because I also grew up with a lot of service in my house. Like my parents give so much money back to Nigeria. They've sent so many people to college. And,
Wow.
you know, so I watched that. And so I was like, okay, this is my way of giving back to the community.
Love it.
Then the recession happened and my school, which was nonprofit-based, closed its doors.
Okay.
And I was like, so what do I do now? And a friend of mine was like, well, why don't you take this thing that you're doing for fun, you know, and to help the community, maybe that could be a business. And I was like, I don't know about all that. And the first few years, I had to move back home with my parents for a year,
Okay.
sister's couch for another year, rented a room with a bunch of girlfriends. We like got this house and it was like each room was $500 for like a year. This is in my 30s, so it's a real struggle. And my early 30s, and it took the business, I want to say year 4 or 5 before I matched what I made as a preschool teacher as take home. So I want to say maybe year 5, I made $150,000 gross in the business, which was about $50,000 take home.
Okay.
And so that's what I was making as a preschool teacher. So it was a long, you know, I know everybody's rich on the internet, you know.
Right.
Everybody's making $1 million their first 2 seconds in.
Nice.
Yeah, you know, allegedly. But for me over here, it took if it wasn't for like unemployment, I had bought a condo when I was 25. Because I was doing really well. I was teaching. I saved a lot. I used to save 1 full paycheck a month. And like the first 3.5 years of teaching, because I also tutored and babysat on the side, I saved about $30,000.
Wow.
I didn't really have any student loan debt because I commuted from home. And I had a little bit. My parents paid some, and then I had some, paid it off.
Okay.
Got my master's. But that was student loan debt that I had. It was about $52,000.
Okay.
But I still had about $30,000 saved from teaching.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? I think, you know, I'm going to buy myself a property. So I bought a condo. But then when I lost my job, I couldn't afford the condo. Yeah, so I rented it out, moved back home with my parents.
Okay.
And I had some credit card scam happen to me. Left me $35,000 in credit card debt. It was just, I want to say from age 28, 29 to like 32, it was a mess after a mess after a mess after a mess after a mess. Credit card scam, student loan debt, losing my condo to foreclosure, starting this business, being broke. It was financially traumatic.
And I want to get to something because you have a new book that's coming out, Made Whole.
Yes.
And y'all, we're going to talk about this because this book, I believe, is a workbook.
Yes.
And it's powerful. We didn't talk about that, but I want to talk about that because, Tiffany, you have a lot of people watching us right now, and you're talking about from 28 to 32, life just hit you.
Yes.
Well, we got people watching right now, and life is hitting them right now. You know, they haven't recovered from COVID.
Yeah.
They're getting laid off from jobs. They're having babies outside of wedlock, and you have the single mother raising a child by themselves. Life is hitting them right now. And they come to me for like a lot of, for sure, money advice, spiritual advice as well, but then they need that practical, like, what do I do to get through this season? I'm curious, what did you do to get through that season? I think you said you had to move back in with your parents. That's a practical thing to do.
Everybody's not able because maybe your parents live too far. They might not be here. They might not be financially able.
Yeah.
You know, but it's important to like build, like look into your community.
It's good.
You know, so like, is it like at the time I was sleeping on my sister's couch after my parents, you know?
Okay.
So do you have siblings, a cousin? You know, like if you have a child, maybe like you have a friend that also has a child and it's like, okay, we can share childcare responsibilities. We can live together. You know, at the time, my friend was, like I said, living in a home that like the woman was renting it out by the room.
Yeah.
And because it was in a college town.
Yeah.
So I was like, we were these grown 30, I was like, I don't even care. Because it was $500 a month and that's what I could basically afford. And so really leaning into your community, you know. But it's also, there's 311 I've had people call me who've been like the working poor, which is they have a job, but not enough to actually pay for a place to live. So they're in a shelter while working.
Wow.
I was just in Atlanta and took my team on a team trip. We go on a trip every year.
Right.
And I fly them out, like 13 of us. And we did some community service at the Gateway Center in Atlanta, where basically it's a men's like transitional, I guess housing kind of like unit, but they also like have resources and things. And we bought like lunch for the men that day. It was about 100. And, you know, just chatted. And you see men like dressed to go to work.
Wow.
You know, like one guy was a limo driver. Yeah. So he had like, you know, nice suit. And I thought to myself, wow. But it wasn't enough because of the way inflation, it was not enough to sustain, to be able to afford a place to live, a safe place to live. And I thought, so if you are in that position, looking for resources. Sometimes it looks like dramatically and drastically. I had to basically abandon my home. Because I was like, I cannot afford the $660, you know. I mean, it was $1,660, my mortgage, you know?
Right.
And I was renting it out, I think, for like $1,200, but that gap of like $400.
You had to pay it.
Yeah, and after a while, I didn't have it. And so I'm like, what do I do? And I've had to abandon cars before. Sometimes, you know, I drown to try to keep up. I wish I could go back to that Tiffany. Like, she drained her, because I was putting money in my retirement account when I was a teacher.
Yeah.
I had about $30,000 or $40,000 in that account by the time I lost my job.
Okay.
And if I were to go back to that Tiffany, I'd be like, leave that money. But I took it out to try to save my condo, only to lose it. So it's like, now you lost the condo.
And the money.
Sometimes learning to let go sooner rather than later. When I tell you, I wish I could go back to her and be like, you're not gonna be. So it's almost like, so this is a lesson that I learned from my friend Cabral. When someone asked to borrow money from me, I used to struggle with, what do I say? He said, well, one, always ask yourself, will this solve the problem?
Yeah.
So let's just say, so I should have asked myself when I was borrowing money from my future self.
Yep.
Because I call my future self Wanda. I like think about it, because I'm like, oh, little old lady sitting on the front porch rocking it. And I'm like, so I'm borrowing money from Wanda.
Yeah.
And Wanda should have said, if I give you this money, will it solve the problem? And the problem being solved is, I might lose this condo. So yes, it will solve it temporarily in that you have the mortgage for the next, but after that, then what?
Yeah.
So it actually doesn't solve the problem.
It doesn't.
So if I lend money to you, like just like, you're like, oh, Tiffany, and like, because let's just say your car is repoed, you know, but you get paid next week or whatever, you just need, yes, it solves the problem because you actually do have a job. It's just this one instance.
Yes.
So then I consider maybe I'll lend or maybe I'll just gift you the money.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't solve the problem, me borrowing from my older self, I just, you know, I put the problem to the side temporarily, but if I didn't have the wisdom then to know, like, girl, that's not gonna solve. You might as well let Wanda have her coin, you know. But she don't. Now we good, but it took a long time before I got good.
So in that situation, and correct me if I'm wrong, you would have told the younger Tiffany, hey, just sell the condo.
Yeah. I would have
keep your $34,000, and you probably would have made what, $10,000 off.
No, it was. Remember, it was recession. Remember when I bought it for?
You would have probably lost.
I would have, but it still would have been better than. Yep. But I didn't know. I didn't have the concept of like in desperation mode.
Yeah.
You're just like, whatever I have to do to see the next day through.
Yes.
That part is so hard.
Yeah.
That's why another thing I tell people, if you're in this mode of like desperation, is find you a Linda. So Linda is my best friend.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was hiding it from everybody, the financial struggle.
Okay.
Because I thought it's just me.
Yeah.
You know, I've made all the mistakes. I'm a bad person. I'm not as smart as I thought I was. And I didn't want anybody to know that the great financial person that they go to, Tiffany, was really struggling. And then one day Linda, because you know, when you have someone who knows you, I know Linda like my whole life, she was like, something's not right with Tiffany.
Right.
She would call, I'll keep things brief so she couldn't hear the distress in my voice. And she was like, girl, get on this phone. Let me see your face. What's going on? And I was like, I told her everything. I owe all this money. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna lose my condo. And she was like, that's it? And I mean, she normalized the fact. She said, have you taken a look around in this recession? She said, first of all, almost every, because I was in my 20s still, she was like, I'm calling you from my mother's couch right now. Like, because I didn't realize I was so
into yourself.
That I did not look around and realize that there was a global financial situation happening.
Yeah.
That I was not immune to it, just like now.
Yeah.
I was not immune to the fact that so many people they're going through this. Okay, and so it helped to normalize that I'm not alone. And also, too, it helped to kind of like get rid of some of the shame, because shame will shield solutions. And so I was like, okay, I'm not alone. Tiffany, there's a lot of people. I started talking to friends, and then I realized, wait a minute, I have some foundational things here that I can lean into. Girl, you know how to budget, you know how to save, you know how to... So I started to put those plans into place, and then friends of mine were like, hey, I'm like, girl, I'm not good. They're like, no, but you're better than me.
Yeah.
And that you have these foundational things, can you teach me how to do that?
Yeah.
And so I re-sparked up this Budgetnista that I was doing for fun, and I thought maybe this can now become a business because so many people were struggling. Yeah, and I'm so glad we talked, I know we talked offline about this, about how nothing is wasted, and that something that you might think is the worst thing or so terrible or whatever, give it some time.
Yes.
Because I could not do what I do now without that. Because up until 26, I was financially perfect. 803 for credit score, $30,000 saved, living off half my income. I was doing everything that I was taught to do. And so that, Tiffany, was teaching from a place of, I don't get it. Why are you using your credit card like that? Because I paid off, I never kept a credit card. I'm like, what's credit card debt? I paid off every month in full.
Every month?
Yeah, every single month, because that's what I learned at home. I don't get it. Why do you have debt? So I could not conceptualize what that felt like internally. So I was teaching from a place of like judgment, if I'm being honest.
Okay.
I didn't think so.
Okay.
Then I went through all of it. I was like, oh, I get it. I get it. My $35,000 of credit card debt. You know, I used the snowball method. It took me 3.5 years to pay it off, but now I got the stress of it. I got what it looked like to be like, oh, no. I understand how you're feeling.
Yes.
I understand that you might not have it. There was times when I was like, somebody's not gonna get it. I got it. And so I'm grateful for that, because now I teach from a place of not just compassion, but empathy, because I was here where you were.
Yes.
I was right next to you, so I know that feeling that you're feeling, and I'm not here to judge you or make you feel bad. We're just here to look for solutions.
And you give solutions all throughout your platforms, especially in your last book, which is a New York Times bestseller. Y'all Get Good with Money. It was an amazing book. I bought 5 of them.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? I bought one for myself, read it, and then I gave my family members it.
Thank you.
There's a lot of, how do I say this respectfully? There's a lot of people in the money space that I believe should not be in the money space. I'm gonna put it like that. I'm not even gonna hint to who, what, where they are. But there's only a little bit of people who teach financial literacy who I would be like, yes, that's one. And Tiffany is the number one in our space. There's a lot in this space I think that are coming up, and I'm hearing some sound doctrine stuff. I'm like, okay, let me see more and more and more. But if y'all really look at it, I really don't bring on other people who are in my space on my show because some of their principles I just don't know. Tiffany legit.
Thank you.
Because, I mean, a lot of your stuff is, here's a solution, but you lead with empathy.
Yes.
But it's like you still gonna whoop my butt in the whole process of giving me the solution.
Yeah, because here's the thing, there's nice and there's kind.
Yes.
And clear is kind.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm here to be like, I'm not here I'm not necessarily a tough love person, just as a preschool teacher, more love.
Yeah.
But still, there's corrective energy when you're teaching preschool. Like, Jaheim, you're just not gonna hit Sarah and it's just gonna... we're going to talk about happy hands.
Right.
And so I'm still going to gather your edges together, but from a place of kindness, because I want you, especially women, my core audience is Black women. And so I want you to not have to struggle alone like I did, because I know how lonely it felt in that space, that I'm here to say, sis, let's hold up a mirror to like, how did we get here? And that's okay, but then, because honestly, once you acknowledge that, then we can get you here. And now I am debt-free like a toddler.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have any mortgages. I have 2 properties. I just sold my 3rd one.
Talk about it.
I have my car. I don't have a car note. When I bought it, it was a 2-year certified pre-owned.
Talk about it.
I paid for cash. Like when I say I have and I pay off my credit card debt every month in full. I'm back to that. Once I paid off that $35,000 scam, I never went back to carrying, credit card debt. So I was like, not me. No, I'm not built for it.
Me and you are one of the only ones who teach that method.
Yeah.
Why do you believe? Like, I'm curious. Your first house you paid $150,000 for. Not your first house, but
my condo when I was 25. I had a mortgage.
Right.
It was $220.
Right. And then the house
that I live in now.
How you pay cash for that?
Yes, it was foreclosure.
Why? I'm curious. At your level, why would you go pay cash? Why not? Because some people look at me and you're like, well, that's crazy. You could have finance it and then go put that money in investment and then...
Well, I'll say that for the second house. So I'll say this, that house I had to buy cash. It was the bank, the bank was like not trying to hear that. They're like, you either have it, you don't, we're only taking cash. Because these people done took us through it.
Right.
You want this house or not?
Right.
It was worth $380 at the time. I paid $180 for it. And so I was like, that was the first time I ever did anything even close to that. Well, that's not true. I paid off my parents' house a year before for $120,000. I mean, their house is worth more than that, but they had a mortgage left over.
Okay.
Because they would have been paid off, but they sent the baby to school.
Yes.
So they got a second mortgage. She went to school, got her degree.
Yeah.
And so my mom at the time was a nurse, and she wasn't quite retirement age, but she was tired. And so I remember I used to have this dream that one day that I would go to the house, and like literally like a dream that I would dream. And tell her, you don't have to go to work today. And that was like a big dream for me. And my dad already retired himself. He's older than my mom by like 11 years, so he was already retired. And so I remember like my dad, he said something that I wasn't used to, something like that indicated that maybe things were a little financially tight. You know? And so because she had already, she's like, I can't, this job,
She can't.
she had already left, you know?
Yeah.
And so that was the first time I ever heard. I was like, wait, what? He was like, no, we all right. Because he's like, but I was anticipating she was going to retire in a few years, so I had mapped out the plan according to that. So now we're just reconfiguring the plan, you know?
Yeah.
And I said, well, what would make the plan get back on track? He was like, you know, by the time your mother was gonna retire, the house would have been paid off. That would have, you know, that would have put me on track. Like, you know, like we got our retirement, we got our account, I pay the bill, we good.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, how much is what's left over? He was like $120,000. I said, so at the time, my late husband, I said, Jarrell, you know, what do you think? You know, about like us paying off. He's like, well, if my mom was still alive, I would have loved to be able to do that. Wow. You know, and because that's not a decision you make on your own, you know?
Yeah.
And so he was like, I would like, let's do that.
Yeah.
And so I told my dad, I was like, you know, Daddy, I think I want to pay off your mortgage. And that was the first time I think he ever realized the business and how it was going. He was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, yeah. He was like, because of course he'd seen things, but you don't really, you know. And so he was like, I said, yeah. So my mother came flying from around the corner with her nose and stuff because I was trying to talk to him in whispered tones. And she was like, what? What's happening? I was like, and then he was like, is that gonna make you broke? I was like, am I not your daughter? Like, who you raised? I know I forgot myself in my 20s when but I'm back.
Yeah.
And he was like, are you sure? So yeah, so I paid it off. Like I think it was like, I spoke to him like on a Friday. That Monday called, sent the wire. And he called me like, I never heard him so emotional because my dad's pretty stoic. He was like, I must have called that line 20 times, Tiffany, to hear your balance is zero. He was like, how is this even? Because of all the girls, I was the wildest one. And I call it Nigerian bad, meaning like, I got to see you on occasion. I talked in class when I wasn't supposed to. Like, you know, I was not, you know, like that's considered in the streets for Nigerians.
Yeah.
Like, what is this? The rest of your sisters are straight A's, you know?
Wow.
So I was like look at Tiffany,
wow.
Like, we don't know, we gonna pray over you because I literally remember having like a family meeting where they laid hands to pray.
Are you serious? Because you had a seed?
And not just that, but like, I just used to, like, I was quite the chatterbox in school. I was a little defiant at home, like, nah, I don't want to do my homework, you know? So they were like, we laying hands and praying. Because whatever the spirit it is, now I look back, I'm like, it's so extra. But here I am.
You are today.
Yes, but
home.
I mean, and so, yeah, so they were so excited. And it wasn't, I remember thinking to myself, I'm disappointed I didn't get the chance to retire my mom. And a few years ago, she was telling me, like, you know, I'm so grateful for you, Tiffany. Because of you, I've been able to retire peacefully. And it like hit me that like you did get to retire her. And she was like, I mean, her tone, because I can't imagine the financial responsibility of raising 5 kids. And we're all 2 years apart, but the baby. So you had a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a newborn. Wow. At one point. And just think about like what that looks like for college.
Yes.
What that looks like high school, hair, all the clothes. And, you know, we never lacked for anything. You know, I mean, certainly when we were younger, I didn't know that we were like, you know, basically poor. You know, you don't realize, you know.
Yeah.
You know, but I just think about like all they sacrificed, and I said no more. So it took her a while, especially, because I not only did I pay off the mortgage, I said, and what else? I was like, if anything breaks in this house, I don't pull from your, because he's like, I got it when it comes to like taking care of our day-to-day needs, you know, because like we have the retirement account. You know, we have Social Security. My dad is like, you know, he's brilliant still in his 80s. Yeah. He said, but I remember they needed a new back deck. It was $12,000. I was like, I got it. And they were like, okay, right? And then too, I was like, let me send them money every month. It really low-key is not really so much for my dad. Yeah. It's because since he manages their finances and my mom is not working, as a woman, to be able to feel like, I don't feel like, so babe, I gotta get my hair, so I want her to really be like, I ain't got to ask that man. You're like, he got the hell, but I wanna do something. I want to get a dress, so I started to send them money. Like I said, I knew my dad was going to do exactly what he does do with it, send it back home to Nigeria, because he's like, we good. Right. But I wanted my mom to be able to be like, I can get a dress, I can do whatever. So I started off at $500 a month, and now it's $750. To just like, yeah. And I just said, well, no, my mom's $750, my dad's $750. My mom's like, send it 2 separate checks. Because I'm like my own little. And so, but I love that for her, because now she can do, like, that's her allowance to be like, I know the bills are paid. And I tell my dad all the time, Don't bother mommy about her money. That is not for anything except for whatever she wants. I don't care if she throws that out the window.
Right.
This is because you raised 5 girls and sacrificed long enough.
Wow.
If you want that dress and it's $200, sis, get it. If you want to get your hair done twice in a week, I don't want you to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then also too, because my mom's a great cook, but like in his older years, my dad's gotten pickier. And also too, I was like, we're not really home. So my husband and I had hired a woman to cook for us because I just was so busy. And so I remember I asked him, what would it look like for me to be a better wife? You know, we would have these kind of conversations. And he was like, I would love to come home to a home cooked meal. And I would struggle to get food on by like 9 o'clock because the Budgetnista had me so busy and I would feel so bad. Like I would cook, but it'd be like 9. I'm like, he's your food. I know. I mean, he cooked too sometimes, but like, you know, I was like, this is what you asked me what you want, and he was like, I love a clean house, which I do keep a clean house, and but also too, I would love, like my husband, my late husband is a twin, and so his twin's wife, she like throws down in the kitchen. I used to be like, Shailene. So instead, I was like, what's the alternative? So I hired this beautiful West Indian woman, Miss Nisha, and so she cooks down. So that was great. So she used to cook for us.
Wow.
So I was like, okay. So he would come home to this home cooked meal, and I played it beautifully when you get home, you know. And but now Nisha also cooks for my parents. So every Sunday she drops off food for the week.
Wow.
So now, because I was like, especially my mother, I'm like, I don't want you to have to think about anything. Daddy got the bills.
Yeah.
You have your money to do whatever you want with. So to hear her tone when she calls me every month to say, your blessing came, that's what she calls it, the 750. Your blessing came. I just want to say thank you so much. The lightness in her voice. She's like, I'm not worried. I'm not stressed. I can go on vacation. I could do whatever it is that I want. Me and your daddy, we don't have to, she knows if something breaks, I got it. You know, so to me, that's what the money is for.
Yeah.
Like if you see me, you don't see me in my Target's best.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have like, there's nothing wrong if that's what you want, but I don't have like some fancy, my car's fine for me.
Yeah.
You know, and I have, like, you know, I live off probably like 20% of what I make, you know? But for me, that to me is what the money is for. I mean, yes, certainly to like have a comfortable life for myself, but to make sure that the people that I care about, especially my parents, I'm like, no. I don't know how much longer, you know, you have them. And I want that while they're here, that their life is comfortable. I don't want you to ever worry about. Money is not going to be a thing that you're going to have to stress about, not when I'm here.
In your new book, I want to go there because in Made Whole, you really highlight on financial wholeness.
Yes.
Compared to financial freedom. When I'm hearing you talking, I'm like, man, Tiffany, you on to something. You know, I just want to encourage you to keep going, and thank you for doing that, because that is my goal one day, to be able to bless my parents tremendously. The hardest part about me is I have 4 parents. So I have 2 biological parents and 2 step parents.
Okay.
So the only reason why I haven't cut a check yet is because if I cut a check for one,
They're going to become.
you know what I'm saying? If I cut a check from my mama, my daddy's gonna be like, okay, where my check? If I catch a check from my daddy, oh my gosh, my mama's coming for me. So I'm sitting here like, okay, God, what is that strategy and how can I be a blessing to them? Because I'm watching my parents, and my mom and my other father had to raise 3 children, me and 2 other siblings. And then my dad and my other mother just had to raise me. And they all made a lot of sacrifices for me and my siblings. My mom quit her job just to take care of her 2 knucklehead boys, you know, and my dad retired early from the military because my last 2 years of high school, they wanted to ship him overseas, and I couldn't go. And so he was like, no, I don't want to leave my son.
Yeah.
So he sacrificed and left the Army early and went civilian just to make sure that I graduated high school. And it's so funny, your parents upset about a C. My dad was happy if I got a C. My dad was like, boys, please get a C. Please get a C. Please. You know, and so when I hear that, I'm like, man, I look forward to that day where I can cut that check.
Yeah.
But talk to us about what is financial wholeness.
So I came up with so the teacher in me was like, Tiffany, you were taught to teach to the 80% of the classroom. So in any classroom, you're going to have 10% that are like really quick to catch on. They got this. They might even need to be skipped.
Okay.
And you're going to have 10% that might have some developmental challenges, and you're like, okay, extra support is needed. But 80%, you know, the concept, they can absorb the concept. They got it. And so what I noticed in our space is that people started to just teach to that top 10%. Of like, this is how you make $1 million a year. This is how you make it. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. But where is the 80%? Where is just like, where is the stuff for the preschool teacher, the mechanic, the nurse who might not ever, she doesn't want to necessarily start a business, maybe she does, but where's the stuff for her? So if you're not a millionaire, does that mean you don't get to live a good life?
Ooh.
I refuse to think that if I stayed a preschool teacher, that meant I would not have a good life. Not that the direction I was going in, you know? And I said, so I started to write Made Whole, which is a companion book to Get Good with Money.
Yeah.
From the perspective of, this is for the teacher, the mechanic. This is for like that Tiffany that if she had not started a business, you know, I would have had cause I had my side hustles and things then, you know, but like that regular everyday person. So what is that? Because financial freedom to me means almost like you have this like pile of money that you don't have to work anymore. And that's ideal. And I would love that for everybody. But what if that doesn't happen? This is the what if that doesn't happen. And it's like, so it's these 10 components for financial wholeness. Your budget, savings, debt, credit, learning to earn. So that's the foundational components of financial wholeness, like mastering those things.
Master those things. What was number 5?
Learning to earn.
Learning to earn. Okay.
And then 6, so this is like the next level to financial wholeness. It is investing for both wealth and retirement. It is insurance.
Okay.
It is building your team,
Yep.
your financial team. It is your net worth.
Ooh.
And last but not least, estate planning. So these are the 10 components. If you can master these 10 components, so whether you're 25 and making 30,000 or you're 85 and making 300,000, you can master these 10 components are available to anyone across the financial spectrum. So if you master these 10 components, then you will reach what I call financial wholeness, which is when you will be able to financially sustain the life that you desire.
Wow.
Yeah, you know, like in its most basic form. So maybe you don't have a yacht, but you can go on vacation.
Ooh.
Maybe you don't have the Lambo, but you have a nice solid car that gets you back and forth. You see what I mean? So that's the 80%. And so the teacher and me, I wrote it step by step by step. There's homework, and each of the steps, I show you how someone else has done it, so you can follow along with it. I have stories from people who read Get Good with Money, how they did that step. Maybe there was a single mom, maybe somebody had just lost their job. Like for example, the story about insurance. I talk about how I lost my husband and how really, in the estate planning chapter especially, and how that really changed my perspective of what estate planning really should look like.
Yes, yeah.
And so like, 'cause I wanted to integrate not just like, here's how you do the steps, but here's how it looks like in the real world, you know? And then give you a chance to practice. The teacher in me was like, you're gonna get the chance to practice these steps. And so I'm just really proud of Made Whole, because the workbook that you could take with you, it's hardcover. It's needed. Because I wanted to be able to open it and write in it. You know, and so I'm just really happy. So it comes out tomorrow, and I'm just like excited for people to get into their hands.
Yo, listen, we dropping that. We dropping that. And I want everybody to get that book and walk through that process, because this is literally, and this is why she's on the show. She literally teaches everything that I teach, and I want to support her. I want to help her win, because this is everything that we need. I've been real big on estate planning for especially for people of color.
Yes.
Because we're not doing it.
No, we're not. Even candidly, like, so I thankfully had a really amazing financial advisor. So sometimes, you know, you don't realize, you're like, what's that whisper that God's been telling me? And it was like, I was making a lot of money, and I was like, okay, I'm really good at making this money. And I knew how to invest, but not at the rate that I was making and the kind of money that I was making. It was just beyond me and beyond anyone in my family, you know? And so I was like, okay, I need help with navigating at this level. So I got a financial advisor. And I remember I was annoyed at first because we actually didn't focus on the money part at first. In the beginning, she was like, I need to see all your financial paperwork, all your insurance policies. I need to see your husband's pension. I was like, girl, come here. I got money. How do I make this grow? She's like, It was the I did not understand, you know? And so we went through all that. She's like, you're underinsured, Tiffany. You need more insurance. You need this. She got us. The beneficiaries are like this. Like you're like my husband has I have a bonus daughter, Alyssa, and her mom was a beneficiary on some of the accounts because when he first started working for the city, you know, they were together. So she was a beneficiary on those accounts because you know you don't think to update your benefits, so all that was updated. Exactly. And me and Shantae are cool, but I'm not cool. She's like, you know. And so all of that stuff, thank God for all those things. You know, and then we got to like, it took about a year before we got to like, okay, here's how you start to grow wealth with the money that you have. And that estate planning, like it's your beneficiaries, updating them, it's your will. And candidly, we literally a week prior to him passing away, she was harping on, get your will finished, Tiffany, and we hadn't. Because I'm like, we're at the time, he's 41.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, we're so young. Well, we're gonna do it this week, we're gonna do it. Yeah. But it was really like a year, she was like, your will. And so we had done about 85% of estate planning, but that 15 that we didn't do, let me tell you.
Was it, you felt it?
Felt it. It was really, and I was like, so now I'm like, so of course now I have my will. I went to my parents, I was like, because my dad had been like, oh, later. I'm like, sir, you're in your 80s. Later is now.
Yeah.
So they have their will fully updated. Yeah. They have their living will updated. They have their health care initiative updated. I created a trust. I just finished and got that notarized. So all my businesses are in the trust because I have a very complicated, so if something happens to me, it would be a mess for my sisters and my parents to unravel. And I'm like, but not anymore. Everything is in here. My instructions are very clear. This is what you left. This is what you left. This is what's left over. This is what to do with the businesses. Yep. This is, and so like it just that clarity. When I tell you, when my husband passed away, it was about 2 years ago.
Yeah, I remember that time.
It was so crazy because I just remember thinking like, because people lose their husbands in their homes. Mm-hmm. And I've had friends, you know what I mean? Like meaning like the financial component, just you get destroyed. But I got to just miss him. And I want that for everyone because although we don't ever think about losing our people,
You just said something right there.
I get to just miss him. I don't have to worry about the financial ramifications. And here's what because people might be like, that's easy for you to say, Tiffany, you rich. My husband, candidly, never made over $60,000 a year working for the city. And before we got married, he had already had a life insurance policy in place, a tremendous one for baby girl.
Okay.
He had a great one for through his job. I did not know this, but he took extra money out of his paycheck to bump it up to the highest at $60,000 a year, right? And on top of, so he had all these plans in place that even if I was not here, she would have been good without stepmommy. So it's possible. You don't got to make a lot of money, is what I'm saying. That's what I love about financial wholeness. He had done all of that. And I remember hearing him on the phone with his friends, like getting on them like, man, you need to get your policy.
Yeah.
Like, because someone would pass away and he'd be like, you see, such and such passed away. And we all trying to raise money to bury them. At least get a policy to bury you, son. Yeah. And so I just understand that this is not a perspective of, this is from someone who's made a lot of money. That, no. Like he did that outside of our relationship. And if anything, like, I was already gonna be good financially, but he left me in an even better financial position, And like I said, like college for her is paid off. Her first house is already paid for. Like, all of that, independent of me, through his insurance. Because we had already been saving for college, but we had not fully funded. And it was like, oh, the policies just helped to plug all of those holes. So I just say all that to say that, like, yeah, that estate planning hits different. When I really led into that chapter, I was like, you just think that, that death is the most common, uncommon thing.
It is.
Meaning, like, we know every day someone dies. We know that.
Right.
But not your someone.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, people die, but not your people.
Ooh.
So it's like common, but so uncommon. Ooh. And so when it's you, you're like, wait a minute. And so if you can put plans in place and not leave your family in like this tizzy, you know what I mean? Like, what about this? And like I said, we talked about, my husband and I, thankfully, we talked about everything. We had our financial planner.
Yeah.
So I knew what his wishes were.
Yeah.
So even though I didn't have this written will, he was also open with his family. So we really knew what his wishes were, like what he wanted for Alyssa, what he wanted for me, so it wasn't, but it still were some gray areas where it would have been nice, even when it came down to like, he was an organ donor.
Okay.
And I remember, it was so crazy how God really works because 2 weeks prior, so the doctors, so he had an aneurysm,
okay,
which is like when you have like a bubble in your vein in your brain and it like bursts and, and so literally on Monday, he just called me and said, I have a terrible headache, and on Thursday he was gone. So it was like this man who was 6'6", slim, beautiful, like just a specimen, just gone like that. And I remember when we kind of knew he wasn't gonna make it, because only 2% of people who pass away are eligible to donate organs, because one, you have to pass away in a hospital.
Okay.
You have to pass away on a respirator. There's all these specific things. Yeah, and then on top of that, imagine how many black people actually, because there's certain things like specifically that they ask, because he's a black man, this would really help. Yeah. Because there are only certain things that that can only go from
Black.
And I was just like, okay. And so I was like, I don't, like his license didn't say organ donor. And Alyssa was like, no. 2 weeks ago, I was going through Daddy's wallet and I took out his license and I said, how come you don't have organ donor checked off? And like so many black people, he was like, I am an organ donor, just so you know, Liz, but I don't want it on my card, just in case, because like he's like, they're gonna harvest your organs if you get to a car accident, But he was like, but he literally said, which sounds so much like him, they could take my heart, my soul, whatever. Yeah. Like I don't need the body, when I'm no longer here. So to even that piece, you know what I mean? That she had just had that conversation. And so I got a beautiful letter from someone who I think it was either his spleen or his saved like their person's life. I mean, literally when you donate an organ, like their body is still alive, because they have to keep it alive as they operate.
Right.
But they're gone.
Yeah.
And so they're rolling, and you see the helicopters land, people with like ice boxes coming, because literally there's someone in another hospital who was this close. And so like even, like if you knew him, he was just the kindest, like just the sweetest. Like he's the type to give you your shirt off the back. So the fact that that was the last gift was so fitting for him, that people lived that day as a result of like, of him giving of himself one last time. And so like to me, like I've always lived a life of service. And so to me, that's why I wrote Made Whole, because I was just like, I want, and even why I started the Budgetnista, because it's not just enough to talk. The teacher in me is like, how can I create a step-by-step, easy to understand guide to navigating this space of money? And so I'm just really proud of that book, like you and your amazing book. I was nervous about being on the cover of my book.
You were?
Because I was like, are they gonna buy from a black girl?
Hey man, listen.
And so I was nervous about it, but then Get Good With Money, I was on that cover. It sold nearly 300,000 copies already in 2 years.
Yeah.
And so when the companion book came around for me to write that, I was like, no, I want to be on the cover again. Absolutely. Because what I found is that like it's not just black women who's purchased the book, that people were open. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
And so I'm just really proud of like being able to like use like my life experiences to serve other people.
No, and this is stuff that we gotta have because in today's day and time, everything's about making $1 million, making $1 million.
Yeah.
Nothing is talking to, not saying nothing, the average money person is not talking to the person who's living paycheck to paycheck.
Yes.
The average person doesn't want to talk to that $50,000 man or woman. And I'm very big within my community. I have a majority woman community too as well. And they don't like it when I say this, but I tell them like, hey man, date that school teacher. Because it's not just about the guy who makes $500,000. The guy making $50,000, $60,000 is going to put more money into his insurance to make sure that you're covered. He's going to invest a lot.
I say this, so I am never going to like tell women who to date, but I'll say this, that whatever your preferences are, make sure it's your preference.
That's good.
Because I'm not gonna lie, when I started dating my husband, I have 2 degrees.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a college degree. He did not have a college degree. There was no cheerleaders. Like, it was like, are you sure? Are you settling? And then they met him. I mean, Jarrell called my parents more than me. I started to call my parents more
because of him.
He was like, and because what he did he was a super, so it wasn't nothing he couldn't fix. So when something happened, all of a sudden Jarrell was like, oh no, I'm at your parents' house. Yep, fixing the toilet. Yep, I'll be back home. I mean, they were like, I'm so sorry. I remember distinctly my mother was like, I was wrong. She's like, I know that I said I wanted this type of, you picked the perfect man.
Wow.
Because I have siblings who've married doctors, Yeah. And they're great too. But she was like, ain't nobody in the house like Jarrell's in this house.
Wow.
Fixing, making sure. I mean, every week he called my dad. Who are you with? He'd be like, shh, my friend. Oh, okay, Mr.
And it's your daddy.
Yes. And what I love that he had this policy, he said, Tiffany, when I talk to your dad or older people, he said, I always make sure I have like an afternoon if I need it. He's like, because I don't ever want to hang up first. I want to be like, all right, son, I'll talk to you later. Let him, and I never thought about that. So, I do that to this day to my dad. Wow. Because, older people always rush, oh, I gotta go.
Yeah.
It's like, let them talk themselves tired. Sometimes it's 10 minutes, sometimes it's 3 hours. So I would let him talk until he was done and excuse me, And I just was like, but those are lessons I get to take. When he passed away, I remember like, I didn't even know how this little old lady down the street knew he passed away, but she rang my doorbell and I thought she was lost. And she was like, is this where that really talk? My husband was 6'6", gentleman lived. And I said, yes. She said, I heard he passed away. And I was like, yes. And she's like, I'm so sorry for your loss. He used to mow my lawn and rake the leaves. And I'm like.
And you didn't know?
No, because that's how he was. I promise you what he saw. This little old lady was like probably 5 foot tall, outside struggling, driving. He was like, pulled over and was like, hi, my name is Jarrell. Do you want me to help you? Because that's how he was. I can't tell you how many times he would run in the house like, quick, babe, get my tools or whatever. I'm like, what happened? Someone's car broke down the street. Who? I don't know. And I'm like, well, are you triple A? But that was him. I mean, just the nicest, kindest. And so like the loss, it was crazy because as much as the loss was great to me, I just did not realize to the community. I mean, I didn't even make his homegoing as public. It was 500 people just showed up. The hospital, they had to get us a separate room because they were like, who is he?
Wow.
I mean, because so many people were like, can I just tell you what your husband did for me?
Yeah.
He let me sleep here. He fed me what I didn't have. I remember when I first met him, I was a preschool teacher and he was the maintenance man of the building.
Yeah.
And watching how he navigated, it was a senior citizens building, which was odd because they had the preschool in the basement. And I remember watching him navigate these older people, taking them to go, like, we were 20-something.
Yeah.
Taking them to go food shopping, fixing things that weren't, like, that wasn't his responsibility.
Yeah.
And I remember distinctly asking him, like, are you a Christian? And he was like, well, I mean, when I growing up, like, my mom didn't always take us to church. I mean, I guess. And I was like, because you're the most, I've never seen it in action like this. I remember distinctly saying that because this is what it looks like to navigate from a place of Christianity. You know what I mean? I just was like, because I've never seen anyone like so giving, so open, you know what I mean? And I just was just like, okay. Like keeping my eye on him because I just was like, we didn't really start dating until our 30s. Like Facebook was like, somebody you might need to know. And I was like, oh, man. But I just remember thinking like, and that's how he was, And so even now, I'm like, I mean, trying my best to be like, how do I continue that kind of like work? I consider myself someone who was like of service, but like, it's like, I mean, it's like knew no bounds. I just did not realize how many people's lives and I never felt lack at home. You know what I mean? That's the thing. That it's one thing, sometimes people like you hear PKs, preachers' kids will be like, child, my dad was helping everybody else, but I felt neglected at home. That's what preachers' kids usually say. But I did not know. I mean, I knew the service he was doing, but I didn't know to what extent. Because at home, he was a present father, a present husband. We went from the last year and a half of our marriage, from a good marriage to a great one. Because growing up, Nigerians, communication is not part of our ministry in the Nigerian community. And so he taught me how to communicate effectively. Because I'd just be like, well, I'm just going to be silent. He's like, we're actually not going to do that.
Ooh.
We're going to, if there's an issue, we're going to talk about it. We talked about, like, what do you need for me to be a better husband? What do you need for me to be a better wife? We had a safe word when we had disagreements that went from helpful to hurtful. It was like, okay, this is actually, like, we're wearing the same jersey. So if you're Scottie Pippen and I'm Jordan, like, why are we tussling verbally when we're wearing the same jersey? So then it was like, okay, when a conversation starts to go from helpful to hurtful, because you're just trying to win.
Right.
Like, and another thing.
Yeah.
He was like, let's come up with a safe word. So we came up with this word pineapples, where if we were like, you know what? Then the other person would be like, pineapples. That meant you had to stop talking and we would separate. And so because it was like, whatever you about to say next,
it's not
good for the team.
Yeah.
So you're like, ah. So once you really understand that you're wearing the same jersey, you start to realize that, like, if you lose in this, then I actually lose right alongside you. It might be a temporary little win, but holistically we lose as a team.
We both lose.
So we talked about everything, finances, everything that you can think of. Like, and so as a result, like, we went from a good marriage to like really a great marriage. I remember I was working so much, business was booming. I had my first 8-figure year. We made $10 million a year in business. And I was doing the best in business, but I was 30 pounds overweight. My blood pressure was like, the doctor was like, I'm gonna have to put you on blood pressure medication. I'm like I'm 60? And it was like, so I'm like, what's really happening here, Tiffany? This level of achievement, but like, look what it's costing you. And I was like, I felt like I was never seeing him. And I just remember, like, at the time, I was like, okay, I need help. So I got a business coach and I got a therapist because I was like, I don't know how to navigate my way out. And the business coach helped me to rearrange the business in a way so I wasn't, like, so my team could actually support me. Because I had a team, but I didn't know how to let them support me. And the therapist made me realize and helped me to see, like, what did I actually really want out of life and how to have the business support it versus me support the business. And so my husband got off work at 5, and I remember thinking, like, I want to be able to, like, he would come off work, but I'd be doing a podcast or this or that. And I'm like, all right, babe, food's in the fridge, da, 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 da. You know, like from down the stairs, because my office was in my house. And then, but I'm like, but I don't want that. So I remember, like, I was like, I'm going to stop working at 5. So then when he came home, it was like everything stopped, and I would greet him at the door, give him a hug, take his jacket, you know, like, you know, we want me to make you a plate, this, you know, because he already know, like, I'm like, what is it, you know, your favorite food? She would cook, Nisha would cook, and then we would talk for like an hour, and then he would go hang out with Alyssa, and then maybe go get a haircut, or he had a man cave, and like would watch movies. So, but that, I didn't realize that there's food when you come home, and you're greeted at the door. Those two things transformed the level. He used to get home, because after work, maybe he might go hang out with the boys for a little bit. He used to get home at like 6, 7, like, oh, I'm hanging out with the boys, get my haircut. I'm like, oh, okay, no problem, because I'm like, I'm working either way.
Right.
He stopped getting home from like 6, 7, and came home 5:15. I'm like, did you fly here? You get off at 5.
The food was ready.
Food was ready, but also he was like, yo, it is so peaceful, so wonderful. Like, I was never not peaceful at home, but I really didn't, quote unquote, I wasn't making time. So he was like, I love being home.
Yeah.
You don't need food. He was like, yeah. I see him on the weekend. Like, I love being home. And I thought, okay. And so that, like, I now know what it looks like to be a really amazing partner.
Oh, man.
You know, how to create peace.
Yeah.
You know, how to create this most loving and amazing environment at home. And so, but it's not just me creating that, like your partner does too.
Yeah.
And, you know, and so, and now the shift, like, I'm not working nearly as much, because I realized that one of the reasons I was able to go so hard is because home was so great. It was a great balance.
Yep.
And so without, like, him being home, I was like, I don't have the taste for all this go, hustle, hustle, hustle. It's enough, Tiffany.
Yeah.
That has been my word since he passed away. Because he always felt like things were enough. I'm like, we can get a bigger house. He's like, well, we got a nice house. We get a fancier car. Well, we got a nice car. His thing was, if you good and baby girl's good, I'm good. He would always say that. I'm like, well, babe, why don't? He's like, Tiffany, you good? Alyssa good? I'm good. I don't need nothing else. And I was like, we're just not ambitious. You know, we should do. And he's just like, oh, well, you could do that, but like, I'm good. And so when he passed away, it made me realize he was right. You know what I mean? Like, in the quest for more, nothing costs you more than making more money. And I said, girl, you already rich. What are we doing? Like, we don't need any more. And so now, it's a different Budgetnista now. I be saying, no, pick somebody else. I mean, and what the crazy part is that it's hard on the ego, because I'm not as like seen. And also, too, I don't make as much. Like, this was a really tough financial year. We were still in the black for both of all of my business. I have a podcast, Brown Ambition, online school, the Literature Academy, and of course, the Budgetnista. And so, like, but it was a tough financial year relative to what we normally are growing. So we're in the black, but we used to double, triple.
Yeah.
You know, this year was like, oh, we about net, but everybody got paid. I get a little, but it wasn't, you know. And so, but I was just like, but I also had more time. I take a 2-hour walk every day. I take an hour nap. I spend so much time with my nieces and my nephews. You know, I get to call my parents every week. You know what I mean? And so, like, I look, and so that's the hard part, because it's like, I could be making more money, be seen more, be out there more, or I can actually have more of a life. And so that's the transition that I'm in now, the space of enough. And so that is kind of like the space where I'm teaching from, why I wrote Made Whole, which is like, how do you get to this place where it is enough? You know, because ultimately, nobody works really hard so they can continue to work really hard. You know what I mean? That is not the end goal, but that's what ends up happening.
Yes.
You work really, really hard. Then, my friend Brenda said this. She said, I wish people understood that the real work is not in the sowing. You know, you put the plant in the ground. It's really in the reaping.
Yes.
Because you think to yourself, like, oh my gosh, I'm working so hard just to pop, just to get known. And then you get known, and then you get success. Managing the success is where the real work is. So if you overplant, you're going to overreap, which sounds good. 1 chocolate chip cookie, delicious. 100, you about to have a stomach ache. You see what I mean? Anything in excess can become toxic.
This is good.
You know what I mean? And so that's what I realized, that I had overshot the goal. They call it the law of depreciating returns. So it's like, you know, there's a return on investment, that's good, that's good, that's good. And then there's a level where after you go past this point, you actually start to reduce the value of the thing. So you drink water, 1 cup, 2 cups, 8 cups, 50 cups, you can actually drown yourself.
Absolutely.
So that's the depreciating return. And I had passed but I did not know until I went too far. But now I'm all the way back and I'm just like, so I'm figuring out the balance of what it looks like, because I don't know quite yet.
Yeah.
But it's enough.
Yeah.
It's enough.
And that's something that I've really been on too. Starting that business, I come from that hustle. Go out there and hustle. Don't sleep. You know what I'm saying? Wake up at 5 a.m., go to bed at 12. And I started realizing, even with my therapist, Tiffany, that I was actually becoming unhealthy. I gained a lot of weight around my stomach. And I remember looking at myself in the mirror one day when I got out of the shower, and my body was just loose, and I didn't like what I saw. Because I was making more money. And my brand was growing, but then when I looked at me, I was like, but I'm not good. My mentally wasn't good, my physical wasn't good. And I was like, okay. And then I took a whole month off.
Okay.
A whole sabbatical off. And I came back, told my team, hey, listen, we're not working on Fridays anymore.
Good.
And it's like I don't talk to them on Fridays.
Good.
I don't know what they do, but I really do try to take that time to myself because I want to make sure that I'm healthy whenever I do meet my wife, if I do have kids, that I'm practicing that beforehand. And one of my mentors told me this, and man, we're already way over time. Now, this is Tiffany, though, you know what I'm saying? But it's like one of my mentors told me this, he said, Anthony, set your number, and when you hit that number, you don't need to go no more.
Yeah.
What you need 5 cars for? You know what I'm saying? Because 4 of them going to be sitting there every day, no matter what. And I was about to buy a big old house, about $3 million. Mortgage payments was about $17,000 a month. And my mentor had to check me, a money guy. I was like, why? It's just you and a dog. He said, the house you have right now is too big for you and that.
The driveway, I didn't want to up. I said, hold up. I said, I know, all by himself.
All by myself. But this is the house that I want to start my
No, yeah, but it's beautiful. Yeah, it's a beautiful, yes.
But then I was going to get a bigger house on the river.
Yeah.
Where I can, see the river. And my mentor was like, you're crazy.
Because what he's really saying is, to what end?
Exactly.
To what end?
Right.
Because also, too, you lock yourself in to now, I got to make. That's when you asked me before, like, it's for financial people, like, because I bought a condo recently, because although I love the house, because we built that house together and renovated it, it's just sometimes it's a lot to live there day to day.
Yeah.
So I'm not selling it.
Yeah.
So my sister and her kids are going to live there, pay the carrying costs. She's going to save like 1/3 of what she pays.
Oof.
So that's a blessing.
Right.
The house, I bought it for $180, it's now worth $520. So I already got my money.
Right.
For the money people who are like, no, rent it for her full price. I'm like,
you already got your money.
I'm good.
And the interest, you're going.
I'm good. Yes, exactly. So I'm like, I don't have to make money on rent. Because also, too, do I want strangers in the house that I built my husband? No. I want, and because she lived down the street from me already. Okay. I remember telling my designer, I want a house that's very kid-friendly, because my niece and nephew were really young at the time, and they were over all the time. Yeah. And so I didn't realize that I was designing for them. Because now she's got this beautiful, kid-friendly house. I call it beautiful, but not precious.
That's good.
You know what I mean? So I was like, but like, I didn't realize, but that's why I said nothing is wasted. And so they're excited to move in. I bought the condo, and I paid for it cash. The condo was $520. And so on the surface, is that the smartest financial move? No. But was it the right financial move for me? Yeah, so I talked to my financial advisor. I said, Anjali, she said, I know. I know you're going to want to pay cash, Tiffany. I know how you are. And I said, and you can, but, because you're a high net worth individual, I can get you a really good interest rate. My ideal would be for you to put down, a good amount, and then put the rest in the market. Right. And I said, she said, there's a certain amount of money that I like to set aside I have a goal that I want to hit by 50, so in 6 years. And there's a certain amount of money that I set aside every year. I had already done that. So me setting aside this additional, say $300,000-$400,000 would have been great, but I had already reached my goal for the year, Yep. And so she also teaches me that you get to live too, Tiffany.
Come on.
So I said, is it bad for me? She's like, no. Like if it was like she said it's gonna tank you, whatever, I would not do it.
Absolutely.
And I also told her I can already sense, it was the beginning of the year when I purchased the home, that this is going to be a tougher financial year than most. And one thing I want to take off the table is I don't have a mortgage now. I don't want that in the back of my head. And she was like, okay. And so my life doesn't actually cost me any more. So I have, I have this other property that's beautiful, And this condo, it's an apartment. It's 2,800 square feet, 5 bedrooms, 3.5 baths. So I have my office. Baby girl still has a room. She stays with me 1 week out of the month still.
Okay.
And and then I have a dedicated guest bedroom and my best bedroom, and then one of them is a gym. You know, so it's beautiful.
Right.
You know, place. No mortgage, so I could just be like,
you're good.
yes. And so to me, that piece meant more than making another
Come on.
few $100,000 in it. You know, I mean, I can say that. I know it sounds unrelatable, but I can. So, but those are choices that you can make.
Yeah.
When it comes to like your money.
Unrelatable, but I think it's stuff that people need to hear that it's possible.
Yes.
I think one of the things that I'm living on is like, hey, I want you to have financial wholeness and financial freedom because I believe financial freedom brings peace.
Yeah.
And it brings options. Like if you want to pay cash for a house, cool, great. If not, cool, great. But you have the option to do what you want to do.
So I've achieved both. So I'm not anti-financial freedom.
I love it.
I'm here to say, just in case you don't make it,
you gotta have
there's still something good for you out there. Because I just don't want, because I feel people are like, well, I'm never going to be financially free. So no.
Yeah.
There is still a second runner-up that's pretty good.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? Because I've achieved both of them. Like I'm 100% financially whole, and I'm also financially free.
Listen, if y'all want to get financially whole and work your way to financial freedom, you need to get this book.
Yes.
All right, so you should see it on the screen right now as well. And then also we're going to drop not just Made Whole, but we're going to drop her other book that has sold 300,000.
Get Good with Money.
You know what I'm saying? Get Good with Money. And then we're also going to drop a link to her show. I mean, her podcast is amazing. I don't listen to a lot of podcasts, but I do listen to hers. And hers, and I still rock my guy Dave Ramsey. And I don't really listen to Earn Your Leisure. I listen to them, good investments. But I mean, I'm telling you right now, you're gonna learn a lot from her. So we're gonna drop all her information in today's show notes. But the key thing is, go get that book. Okay, let's make this another New York Times bestseller on the workbook side of things. All right, so get that book and complete the workbook, you guys. You cannot change your life if you're not willing to put in the work and get the education.
Yeah.
So she gave you a journal. She's giving you practical things to do. Yo, let's change our lives. Let's get whole, and then let's start working our way to financial freedom. All right? So we love you all. Y'all follow her. Go subscribe. Tell her you're from the AO community. Go join her community and just rock with us both. It's all good and gravy. You know what I'm saying? Could be family. And then from there, y'all, let's just continue to grow. All right? We love you. God bless you. We'll see you on the next show. Peace out.